Greetings and salutations, everyone, and good evening. This is Swedish Jeff. I apologize. I was actually going to make a video earlier, and just to give a little demo of the APBA baseball master game. And what happened was the video ran a little long, or should I say a lot long, and it ended up basically taking up so much of my battery that I had to recharge it. So here I am. I'm going to shorten this video and try to keep it at a maximum of half an hour. If I can do it in a shorter time period, great. So what I've done here is I've taken two teams, and because the Seattle Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays are playing tonight on television as we speak in Game 6 of the American League Championship Series, I'm going to take the 1987 Seattle Mariners and the 1987 Toronto Blue Jays to give this demonstration here for APBA Baseball's Master Games. So on the mound for the Seattle Mariners is Mark Langston. This is his card right here. This is his season. And let me go back here. So if you look at his number here, this is the number 13. And that is his base grade. So that says that if he allows no earned runs for 7 consecutive innings, he can advance 5 points. And on the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays is another southpaw, Jimmy Key. He is a 16. So with Key, if he allows no earned runs in 8 consecutive innings, he advances to a base grade of 20, which is the maximum they can advance to. So I made up the lineup, and here is the starting lineup here. We're going to start with the Seattle Mariners. Leading off and playing second base is Harold Reynolds. I usually like to pick somebody, especially during this era, who has a lot of speed. And if you look at Reynolds' 60 stolen bases, the on-base percentage is not bad. It's okay. It's not bad, 325, but he did get on base and steal 60 bases. So he's batting in the leadoff spot. Batting second in left field is Phil Bradley. Bradley had 40 stolen bases, a better on-base percentage, but he is going to be our number 2 hitter here. I could have went and flip-flopped him, but I'm going to go with Bradley in the 2 spot. Batting third is Alvin Davis, who is the first baseman. Had a very good year. He was the 1984 Rookie of the Year. Batting cleanup is Jim Presley. Had 24 home runs that year. Nice. Batting fifth is the designated hitter, Ken Phelps. Batting sixth and playing in center field is Mickey Brantley. Batting seventh and behind the plate is Dave Valley. Batting eighth and playing shortstop is Ray Quinones. And batting ninth and playing in right field is Donnell Nixon in right field. Now we come to the Toronto Blue Jays lineup. Leading off and playing center field is Lloyd Moseby. Very good year. Good on-base percentage, 39 stolen bases. Batting second, playing shortstop is Tony Fernandez. Switch hitter, he also had a good on-base percentage and 32 stolen bases that year. Batting third, the MVP of 1987 in the American League is George Bell, playing in left field. Outstanding season. Batting fourth and playing right field is Jesse Barfield. Batting fifth and being the designated hitter is Cecil Fielder. This is previous to his days with the Detroit Tigers. Batting sixth is third baseman Kelly Gruber. Batting seventh and playing first base is Willie Upshaw. Batting eighth and playing second base is Garth Orge. There we go. And batting ninth, last but not least, is the catcher, Ernie Witt. So, how I construct the lineups is I like to have speed at the top of the order during this era, preferably somebody with a good on-base percentage. And I usually choose what I call the givens. And I mentioned this in a previous video a few months back, which is the givens, the Givens givens. Your number 1 hitter, your number 3 hitter, cleanup man, for example here, let's take a look at the, Toronto Blue Jays, for example. Barfield is the cleanup man. And generally, I like to have a number 5 hitter who has some speed. With Cecil Fielder, he is a slow runner. But Gruber, I could have put him in the 5 spot and have Fielder bat 6th to avoid a double play, because if you have Fielder hit a ground ball, Gruber, with his speed, could make it. He could possibly make it to second base, and then Fielder would get thrown out at first. But I like Fielder batting in the 5 spot with this lineup, so it's really a case-by-case basis. And I like to have the weaker hitters batting lower in the order. That's pretty traditional. And that's kind of what I'm going by here. I'm not using Baseball Reference. This is just a random game that we're going to play here, just to give you an example of what the master game is like here. And I'm going to try and get at least 5 innings in, and we'll see how we go. So enough talking. Let's get going here. Here's Harold Reynolds leading it off. And he rolls a 14. On his card, a 14 is a 30. That is a fly out to left. And the easy way to remember this for the master game is if you roll a 30 with bases empty, even if you have runners on, a 30 is usually a fly ball to left. A 31 is a fly ball to center. A 32 is a fly ball to right. So just remember 30, 31, 32. One away. Here comes Phil Bradley. Bradley rolls a 54. On his card, that is a 32 and a fly out to right. And that is 2 away. That'll bring up Alvin Davis, who does not do very well against left-handers. You can see at the bottom where it has PR, and then you see the -10 and then +4. -10 is versus left-handed pitching. So you would take, for example, Jimmy Key, who is a 16, and you add 10 to his 16 is 26. Against right-handers, you would add 4. You would take away 4 from the pitcher. And if Key was a right-handed pitcher, it would be a 12. He would become a 12. But anyway, Alvin Davis is going to come up to the plate. And he rolls a 64, which is a 41. And it says to use the RP board, which is the rare play board, which is this right here, the rare play board. 64, which is a 41. So 66 on 41 is an 11. And if you go to the chart here for 11, it's going to say shortstop here, and you see 3 different results. I hope you can see that there. So the shortstop for the Toronto Blue Jays is Tony Fernandez, who is ranked a 9. That is excellent defense. So we're going to roll to see how Fernandez does. And he rolls an 11, so that means that we're going to look at the fielding 1 chart. So it is a ground out to short, and score that 6-3 on your card. So 3 up, 3 down for Jimmy Key here in the first inning, and no score as the Toronto Blue Jays come up to bat against Mark Langston. And Lloyd Moseby is going to lead it off here. So here we go. It is a 23, which is a 12, and 12 with bases empty is, as we look at the chart here, you can't see it, but it is a ground out at first. So that is 1 away. Score that G3. That'll bring up Tony Fernandez. Here's the pitch. 36 is 33. Now this is interesting here, because if you go to 33 on the scorecard, on the, not the scorecard, the fielding chart here, 33 would be a pop out to second base, but then you see that Y. If you are rolling and you're looking at the pitching change table and you see 33, like right here, for example, you would go to there would be a pop out to second. But because it has that Y, and why we look at it is because Langston has an XY, that is going to be a strikeout. So Fernandez gets a K. 2 away, and here is George Bell, who rolls a 14, which is a 30, and that is a fly out to left. Now, something else that I want to show you here is if you roll a 30 and you see that K, if Langston had a K on his card, which some pitchers do, like a Nolan Ryan, for example, that would be a strikeout. So instead of being a fly out to left field, it would be a strikeout. So after 1, it is no score here in Toronto at Exhibition Stadium. And now we have Jim Presley coming up to the plate. And he rolls a 61, which is a 24, which is a ground out to short. Now, just like with the flyouts, if you get a 24 and you have runners on, generally a 24 is going to be a play for the shortstop. 26 is going to be a play for the second baseman. 27 is going to be for the third baseman. And 29 is generally going to be a play to the pitcher. So Presley grounds out to short, 1 away. Here is Ken Phelps. Here's the pitch. 45 is a 14, which is a walk. And if you see the 14 here, that is generally going to be a walk, as you can see. But if you have a ZZ rating, and very few pitchers have a ZZ, then the batter would have 2 balls and no strikes. But Phelps draws a walk, and if you look at his card here, he had 1 stolen base. He's a slow runner. We're not going to steal. And that'll bring up Mickey Brantley, who rolls a 62, which is a 32. That is a fly out to right. That is 2 outs. And that'll bring up Dave Valley. And he rolls a 13, which is a 22. 13 and 22. And on the chart here, that is a hit by pitch. But if it is against an HBO pitcher, not a home box office pitcher, but an HBO pitcher, it would be 1 ball. However, Key does not have an HBO rating, neither a Cinemax or a Movie Channel or a Showtime rating, but he will issue a base on balls here to David Valley. So now the Mariners have runners on first and second. And Ray Quinones coming up here. And it's a 64. And 64 is a 13, the unlucky 13, and it is a strikeout. So opportunity wasted. And as Hall & Oates once sang, we keep on missing each other. All I see is missed opportunities, and that's exactly what happened with the Mariners, kind of like tonight's game in real life. So after going through an inning and a half, it is no score here in Toronto. And here comes Jesse Barfield to face Mark Langston. And he rolls a 24, which is a 13. Struck him out. He goes down. Cecil Fielder rolls a 22, and that is a 6. And you notice here he has single column cards, and other hitters here like Kelly Gruber, for example, has a single column card, but then you have Willie Upshaw with the double column. But Fielder is going to get a 6 here. He's -1 against left-handers. Langston's a 13, so you add 1 is 14-6. And you go to the pitching change table here. So 14-6 is a blank, and it says double to right center. PL is left center. Fielder has an SA, so that is going to be a double. So Fielder is now on second base, and that'll bring up Kelly Gruber. So the Blue Jays have a runner in scoring position. Gruber is a 24, and that's a 13. That is a strikeout. 2 away. And that'll bring up Willie Upshaw. Left-handed batter. He is a 36, which is a 33. And it is not a strikeout this time, though. On 33, it's going to be either a pop-out, primarily a pop-out or a line-out. Either way, it is an out. And the Blue Jays threaten, but they do not score. So through 2 innings here, it is no score in Toronto. And the Mariners are going to lead off here with their number 9 hitter, Donnell Nixon, and Jimmy Key on the mound. Both these pitchers pitching a very good game. He rolls a 32, which is a fly out to right. And that is 1 away. That'll bring up Harold Reynolds. It's a 53, which is a 19. That is a different roll. 19 on the chart here is an error, as Dick Stockton would say. And 19 is an error on the third baseman. So no matter how you slice it or dice it, it is a 19. If the asterisk means there are 2 outs. So if there were 2 outs, you would roll. And if it was a fielding 1, if you looked at the fielding 1 chart, then it would be a ground out to third. But it is an error on the third baseman. And guess what? Harold Reynolds, you look at his steal rating here, he is an A. And a steal allowance rating of A. He had 60 stolen bases. So here's where we're going to do a stolen base. And if you look at the steal allowance chart here, you see it has anytime. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at his steal rating, which is going to be 29. So we got to use a little math here, folks. We got 29 for the steal rating. And we're also going to look at Jimmy Key's hold rating, which is the MF here. And that's not a bad word. It's MF. That is his hold rating. And it says +3. So that's good for the Blue Jays. So we're going to -3, subtract 3 from Harold Reynolds, which is going to make him now a 26. So now you're going to go to the stealing chance table, and you're going to go to 26, which is right here. And you see right above that, that is a 52. So if we roll a 52 or less, Reynolds is safe. A 53 or higher, he's out. So here we go. Let's roll. And it's a 64. It is a caught steal. Or is it? So now what we do is we go to the dropped throws on stealing tags. Let's make this out of the way here. The drop throws on stealing tags. So we're going to roll the dice again. And it's a 51. So you look at 51 here. What I do is I go to 51. And I see the ratings here to see if anybody matches up on Toronto. Do they have a catcher with a C7 or a C6 rating? Ernie Witt is an 8, so the answer is no. So it is a caught steal. And Harold Reynolds is caught stealing, and there are 2 outs now. If he was safe, what we would do is we would look at the catcher's wild throws on the safe steals chart, and then look at the ratings here. And if it did say it was a C8 on 22-3, for example, say it's a C8 here, we would then roll the dice again for a wild throw to second. If a wild throws to second, if the runner tried to steal second, or wild throws to third. Did not happen. I hope that makes sense, because Reynolds is now caught stealing. And now there are 2 outs and Phil Bradley at the plate. And he rolls an 11. Very good. That is a 0. So now we're going to roll again and look at the second column. It's a 44. And guess what that is? That is a 1. And you add 8. Or actually, you would subtract 8 from Key, which would make him from 16 to 8. So it's an 8-1. So you look at this chart here. 8-1 is blank, which means home run. You can see it at the top here. It says home run. So just like that, Phil Bradley gets a home run. And the Mariners take the early lead here 1-0. And too bad they don't have Harold Reynolds on base because they'd be up by 2 instead of 1, but they'll take it. And that'll bring up Alvin Davis. Oh, let's try that again. Davis gets a 33. Look at this, 33, and he gets a 0. So let's roll again. And it's a 61, which is a 6. So Davis is minus 10, which is going to add 10 to Jimmy Key. So it's 26, and we're going to look at 6. So 26-6 here. And that is an M. So now we're going to go to Key's rating. And he does not have an M, so that is going to be a double. If it was an M, what that means here, and you look at the chart, this is the base is empty chart. It says, if an L or an M did appear in that block, convert 6 to 1. So that would change a double to a home run. And the way I see it is if it's changing from a 1 to a 6, I think of a hitter coming so close to a home run and it bounces off the wall or off the fence. Where this is a fly ball that, obviously this was a double, but if it was looking like a home run and it turned into a double, then it's a near home run. But if it's a double that turned into a home run, I would say it's a ball that looked like it might drop, more of a line drive, but it got out of the park. Anyway, Davis is on with a double. That'll bring up Jim Presley. Toronto's in a little bit of trouble here, so he gets a 13, and it's a 22. This time we're going to look at the catcher's chart. His rating is an 8. 11, that is a 1. So 22 on 1. It says, batter out on high pop fly, runner holds. So we'll score that F2. And just like that, the Mariners take the early lead here 1-0. They've got the lead. And the Blue Jays are coming to the plate. Let's see if they can answer back here. And leading off for the Toronto Blue Jays is going to be Garth Orge. Party on, Garth, perhaps. And he rolls a 15, which is a 9. And Orge is a minus 5. Langston's a 13, so it'll be an 18-8. Or 18-9, excuse me. And that is a 28, which is a ground out to short. And that is 1 away. And that will bring up Ernie Witt. Here's the pitch. 26 is 24. And that is a ground out to short. I'm showing you the cards so you know what the results are. Not like I'm going to lie. Right? Oh, it's a home run. 21 is 26 for Mosby. That is a ground out to second. And it's a 1-2-3 inning, just like that. Langston is pitching a gem here. And right now he's got the lead. It is 1-0. Top of the 4th, here is Ken Phelps versus Jimmy Key. And he rolls a 36, which is a 33, which is a pop out, but it has that Y. That is a strikeout for Ken Phelps and for Jimmy Key. Mickey Brantley, 61 is 27. And that is a ground out to third, and it has an X next to it. Now, if Key had an X, then that would be a strikeout. Mark Langston does have an X. Key does not. It is not a strikeout. That's a ground out to third. 23 for Valley is a ground out at first. And it's a 1-2-3 inning. Down go the Mariners in the fourth inning. And here come the Blue Jays. Toronto only needs 1 run to tie it and 2 to take the lead. It's a 16, and that is a 28. That is a ground out to short, 1 away. Here comes the MVP of that year, George Bell. And he rolls a 53. That is a 15. And we're going to look at the left field chart here. This is going to be Phil Bradley, who was a 3, which is a very good rating. So you just remember 15. And we're going to roll. That's a 43. So 43 on 3 is a 1, and that is a fly out to left. That is 2 outs. And next up is Jesse Barfield, who rolls a 53. That is a 17. And now we're going to look at the right fielder. That's Donnell Nixon, who is a 2. So 17 and 2. Roll. Is 25, and that is going to be a 1. That is a fly out to right. So 1-2-3 inning, and down go the Blue Jays, and through 4, the score is 1-0 in favor of Seattle. And that'll bring up Ray Quinones. Rolls a 64. The unlucky 13 is a strikeout. And for Jimmy Key, the Key Master, he has his 3rd strikeout. Here is Donnell Nixon. Rolls a 61. It is a 40. And we're back to the rare play board again. So we're going to go to the RP board, the rare play board. 26-40 is 30. That is a foul ball. A foul ball. And it's a 52, which is 27. And that is a ground out to third. Now, had that been an X, that would be a strikeout, but it is not. And now, top of the order again, Harold Reynolds. 34 is 31, and that is a fly out to center. And so far, it's a pitcher's duel here in Toronto, but the Seattle Mariners have the upper hand at the moment. They lead 1-0 heading into the bottom of the 5th. And here comes Cecil Fielder, Big Daddy, who rolls a 15, is an 8. He's a -1. Langston is a 13. That is 14-8. That is a fly out to left. 1 away. Here comes Kelly Gruber, who rolls a 14. That is a fly out to left. That is 2 gone. Willie Upshaw rolls a 15. That is a 10. He's a -5 against lefties. Langston's 13. That is 18-10. And there's a blank space. That is a base hit for Upshaw. And he is on. Now, Upshaw did have 10 stolen bases that year. But I'm going to hold off here. I'm going to let Garth Orge try and swing the bat. And let's see what happens here. And it's a 61, which is a 27. And he has the X next to it. That is a strikeout. So through 5 innings, the score is 1-0. And that is a little demo here to kind of give you a feel of the master game. I hope that this has helped out. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback, please feel free to leave them. And I will try to do more of this in the future here. I hope that this kind of gives you a little bit of a feel of the master game. So long, everybody. Thanks for watching and have a great night.